We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. We have the good fortune of having our regular guest Ed on the program, and I was anxious to get Ed on the show because just before we started recording, more news broke. That's the one thing about this world. There's always breaking news, so there's never a shortage of things to talk about during the Rational Boomer podcast. And Ed, we were talking before before we came on here, and on those times when you weren't around, you had some other things to do.
Yeah.
Because you're old and because I'm old, if we're not there, that people go, is is that okay? Is that okay? And we
Yeah.
just confirmed that you went to the doctor and you're healthy as a horse, so everything's cool. If Ed if Ed isn't on the show, that means he's just too fucking busy.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I did develop this taste for oats, however. So
Yeah, there you go.
there's that. But actually, I just had a bowl of oatmeal, steel cut oats,
Yeah.
just before we came on. But no, I'm doing well. It's just I had my 6 month checkup, go in, get poked and prodded and so forth,
Right.
and yeah, I'm doing well.
Nice.
The blood pressure is great, and well, the doctor did say you're almost too good looking. Could you
Yeah,
dial it back a little?
I don't
But
doubt that. There you go.
so I'm working on that.
You're in your 70s, time to pull back on that coolness and that good
Yeah,
lookingness,
yeah,
because you're just causing too many heart palpitations amongst elderly women, and that can be a
it's true.
problem.
It can. Funny story, real quick, if we've got a moment.
Sure.
There's a lady who she's my neighbor, real nice lady. She lost her husband during the COVID thing. And I mean, it was awful. It was like 14 days, that I was talking to him on the porch one day, and 2 weeks later he's gone. So she's whenever she's out in her yard or anything, or she walks to the post office these days, we stop and chat for a moment. We stopped on the corner, I don't know, it was about a couple of months ago, right? I'm out walking my dog. We're standing there talking, and I bet there were 10 cars with older ladies in them who pulled up and waved at her while we're standing there. And I can read their faces. It's, oh, Joyce has a new boyfriend. It never stops. It's just like high school.
When I hear about that place down in Florida, the villages and all
Oh,
the illicit
mm,
sex going on down there, and the fact
yeah.
that people are in their 70s and 80s down there, I don't know what to think. I don't know whether I should be hopeful or or disgusted by that shit. It's fucking weird shit. But you're right. That's what people do, especially in a smaller town. Oh, what's
Yeah,
going on there? I need to know. I need to know. Everybody needs to know
absolutely.
what's up. Next thing you know, your wife's going to get a call and say that Ed's been seen scampering about with some 85-year-old woman.
Probably. But anyway, that's what can you do,
Well,
when you got it.
your wife would probably welcome the opportunity to take some of the work off her plate.
She'd laugh. That's what she would do because she knows me.
Yeah.
But
Well, we've got a
but
lot of
it,
shit going on.
oh boy, we do. The big one, of course, just broke, and that is looks like the budget just passed in the House.
And this is what I've always said, every time we get to this point, whether it be a continuing resolution or the budget itself, everybody's in the media going, "Oh my God, what happens if the government shuts down?" And I keep telling people they're never going to shut it down because if the Republicans shut it down, they're going to get the blame, and they got enough fucking problems at this point. But every time they walk it up to the last minute of the last day, and then magically it's a continuing resolution or it passes. But right now, this time, when this passed in the House, now it goes to the Senate where it will pass, and then to Biden. Once that's passed, the budget or the spending bills are done. We don't have to worry about continuing resolutions anymore, right?
That's right. Until next year, right? But
Yeah.
and of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene immediately files a motion to vacate to get rid of Mike Johnson for uh, working with the Democrats to pass a budget, which Republicans aren't supposed to do on her planet. Now, why this woman is still around, I don't know it. You'd think they marshal their forces and somehow get rid of her because even the bad people don't like her anymore. I mean,
No.
I mean, even well, Freedom Caucus or whatever they call them, the MAGA idiots, that they tossed her out, you
Right.
know. And so I don't know who's her friend.
I don't know that she has any friends. And, uh, the Republicans in this situation earned their nickname, the Chaos Caucus. And,
Yep.
and Marjorie Taylor Greene earned her nickname as Dumb Bitch. I
Yeah.
mean, she can't help herself. So for people who understand that the budget passing was absolutely critical in order to keep the government open. But clearly, Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't like that idea. She'd rather
No.
see the government closed down, create some chaos and all kinds of problems, not only for Congress, but for all of us that might be affected by a shutdown. Now, I was just listening to some people talk about this good news, bad news situation. Now that they passed this spending bill, and they've actually accomplished something for once in the House of Representatives. You know what's next on the docket?
Mm-mm.
2 week vacation.
Oh, of
2 week
course.
vacation. You know
Oh,
they're going
yeah.
to get the fuck out of there on a
Yep.
Friday as soon as they possibly can. So that means they probably won't address Marjorie Taylor Greene's situation with the
No.
the motion to vacate for 2 weeks, which is perfect Marjorie Taylor Greene. Fuck it up, do it at the wrong time. But when they do come back, I'm fine with it. They want to vacate them. I don't give a shit. They're not going to
Yeah.
get anything done till November anyway.
Right. Exactly. Now, this is the thing. If the Democrats decide to vacate him, they can,
Yeah.
because obviously, most of the Republicans aren't going to vote to do it because they're tired of this stuff, just like everybody else is. The ones that aren't totally MAGA idiots.
Right.
I'm not saying there's any really good Republicans. I don't think there are, but there's some of them are a little bit more sane, and they realize that it reflects on them. You know, that although they would love to have the chaos continue so they could run on it, oh, it's a dysfunctional government. We got to get rid of the Democrats, blah, blah, blah. But no, they're not going to vacate Johnson. The Democrats won't either, I think, because why get into that mess, right?
No, no.
Who they know who Johnson is. Who else are going to put in? You
Here's
know,
the ironic thing about this, though. The reason Marjorie Taylor Greene is mad because the Republicans had to work with the Democrats to get the spending bill done, right? Okay.
exactly.
Now she wants to vacate Mike Johnson. Now, if all the Democrats vote to vacate Mike Johnson,
He's gone.
no, not necessarily, because then they only need 2 votes from the Republican Party.
Oh, this is true. They only
They
need
only
two.
need 2 votes, and he could be gone at that point. But the Democrats, like you say, they're not going to fuck around with that. What's the point of making it more bullshit between now and November? I mean, this is an opportunity once again for the Republicans to suck away attention. The Democrats should just go in and say, "Fucking keep them. We'll just deal with it till November," and then blow Marjorie Taylor Greene out of the water. That's
Yeah.
more valuable to the Democrats than watching them flounder in their vote of no confidence. But the thing about it is Marjorie Taylor Greene is mad that Mike Johnson had to deal with the Democrats to to get this deal done for the spending bill, but
Yeah.
she's going to need the Democrats' help to fucking oust Mike Johnson. That's the
Yeah.
irony about this. She doesn't want to deal with the Democrats, but now she needs the Democrats to get something she wants done. Fuck Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I'd rather not. Ooh.
No.
The makes me the makes me shiver. The other thing that was going on, of course, I forget which state he's from, and I forget his first name, but his last name's Buck.
Ken Buck,
And Ken Buck,
Colorado.
yeah, he from Colorado. I knew it was out west somewhere. He had announced he wasn't going to run, and then he suddenly decided, I'm out of here. But before he left, the last thing he did was vote for the discharge petition that the Democrats put up to pass the budget or to pass the resolution on funding Israel and Ukraine. Now they don't. That didn't really do anything except he had this kind of cryptic statement: "I'm not the last one." Which indicates maybe there's some sort of revolution going on here where some other Republicans are going to either vote for the discharge petition to get this finally funded the way it should be, or they're going to resign and just take off,
Right.
giving the Democrats the majority in the House, which would be tremendous going into the election, don't you think? We could get a lot done between now and the election if we have the House and Senate. A lot.
That's a
And
good
I
point.
and I also believe that if we could do that, you would see a big change over at the Supreme Court, because they would realize that they're on shaky ground if we have the presidency, the Senate, and the House. You'd be surprised about how quickly they could come around.
Yeah, yeah, they're going to change their tune. And it's surprising to me that they haven't changed their tune because they're not stupid people. They can see the writing on the wall. They can see what's going to happen in November. The House of Representatives is going to swing way to the left, and they're going to have to deal with it now. But they're going to keep doubling down until the last minute, and then it'll be too fucking late. They've already done their damage, and now the Democrats are going to have to take them to task.
I firmly believe that there is some skullduggery going on at the Supreme Court. We had Anthony Kennedy resign abruptly
Yeah.
to make way for one of these MAGA idiots they stuck on there, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think there's been a lot of blackmail going on. We know Kavanaugh is vulnerable, both because of his sexual peccadillos and also because he was deeply in debt, and then suddenly he wasn't.
Right.
We've got Clarence Thomas, of course, who's taking favors hand over fist. You got Robert's wife, who was milking the position by getting $25 million out of law firms for, referring people and all of this. There's a lot of stuff going on the Supreme Court that, if it all came to light, could really do some damage. And I really do think there's some right wing people who have a finger on all of that, and they've been guiding this. I think it's very possible.
Well, there's talk too on the street, as it were, that Alito and Clarence Thomas have in their plans to retire.
Mm-hmm.
But they would only do that if Donald Trump won the presidency or a Republican won the presidency, and that's just not going to happen. That's not in the cards right now. There's too many things working against Donald Trump to win anything. But you wonder what happens. They're going to retire voluntarily if Donald Trump wins, but if Joe Biden wins, which he will, they may end up going too, but they may be forced out. You talk about blackmail or skullduggery. Uh, Getting those two impeached might be tough to do, but
But
there
it
may
can be
be
done.
some negotiations too, saying, "Listen, motherfuckers, you better go, or there's going to be some big stories in the news about you crazy fucks." So there's a lot of stuff probably going on behind the scenes. I don't know what it is, but I've said when we get the power in the House and the Senate, we need to codify Roe v. Wade first, and then we need to address the courts, the Supreme Court on down, because if we don't have a legitimate court system, we don't have fucking democracy. So that is absolutely crucial that we go and get to straightening that out right away.
Absolutely. And the other part of it is we have to codify Wade, but not just Wade. We also have to codify same sex and
Right, right,
interracial marriage. We have to codify the right to contraception. Anything that's based on the right to privacy, we have to codify, because in overturning Wade or sending it back to the states, they basically said there is no right to privacy.
right.
Overall, that's what they said. And even at the time, Clarence Thomas actually said in his opinion that we would have to revisit these things because they were based on the same thing. So make no mistake, if you use contraception, or you want it to be available for other people, uh, they will go after that next. There will be a case that they will turn it back to the states, and if you're in one of the wrong states, like I am here in Tennessee, yeah, you would lose your right to contraception. If you're married to someone of a different race, that marriage would be dissolved. If you're married to someone of the same sex, that marriage would be dissolved. They will do that. They want to do that. They plan on doing it. It's in the cards. Listen to me.
One of the listeners sent me a note when I said that about Wade and the courts and all this other stuff. They said there's one other thing that's an absolute must to do for Democrats once they get power. I hadn't thought about it, but I have to agree with it. We got to immediately go after Citizens United and get that
Oh,
fucker gone.
absolutely. That's always been the biggie. I mean, we really haven't had, well, we missed an opportunity in Obama's first term right at the beginning when we had the House and the Senate. Some people said we should codify Wade, and he said now's not the time. That was wrong. That was the time.
Absolutely
It's the
wrong.
same with Citizens United. We've got to get big money out of politics or democracy dies. It's that simple.
Well, because things change so quickly, there is no point where you can sit back and say, "Well, let's just wait on that." I mean,
No,
we should have learned to listen with not codifying Roe v. Wade, and now henceforth we have an opportunity to do something. We need to put the hammer down and get that fucker done. We're too far in the hole right now, and every time the Republicans get some kind of power, we get further down the hole. Now's the time to fucking start digging out because we can't trust them in any respect. They're always going to be working against the Democrats and working against the country.
that's right. And what you're really saying is the rich people are going to be doing that because that's
Right,
who it is. They're
right,
behind all of it. The Republican politicians are just their handymen, their yard guys, if you will.
right.
You know, they work for the rich people, and it's that simple.
Yeah.
Let me put it to you this way: before I was born, I'm a little older than you,
A
but
lot
before
older
I,
than me. You're a lot older than me. 10
all right,
years, maybe.
yeah, 10 years, okay, but about the time I was born was when it started getting good in this country. Before that, it sucked.
Yeah.
If you were not rich, it sucked. You know, you lived in a hovel. You didn't have any health care. You made diddly. And the rich people, everything went their way. Now, because of the Depression and because Franklin Roosevelt got 4 terms in office, he was able to get that started turning around. Then we had World War II, and then we had all these guys coming home, getting the GI Bill, starting businesses, and building houses and so forth. And it got really good in the country for a while until the rich people said, "Hey, we got to change this." And they, with Reagan, they started once again just carving out a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. And right now, you get all these people, especially Republicans, screaming about China, 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 right? The Republicans created China.
Right.
Do you remember? You may probably not, but there was a guy named Donald Reagan. He was
Yep.
kind of Reagan's prime minister. He got a big group of industrialists together, and he said, "You got to outsource to China. First of all, you're going to save a lot of money on labor, and you'll break the unions, and we will be in power forever." So that's what they did. You know, they just clicked off the switch on industrial production in this country and started it up in China, which created modern China, our chief rival.
Right.
They created that. That's a Republican. China is a Republican creation, as it is now. I mean, it was a dysfunctional communist nation back then. Mao just died, and they were having all this internal conflict, and the Great Leap Forward, and then the guys running around with the little red books, and the Cultural Revolution, all that total chaos. But all this industrial production comes in, people start making money, things calm down, and now they're this huge economic engine, faltering a little bit right now, but they're still there. But that was a Republican creation.
And you
Take it
know,
to the bank.
and China, I'm taking a guess here, and you know better than I would. But prior to all that happening, the industrialization and all that, China was pretty much a backward rural country. They didn't
Yeah, that's
have any
pretty much
direction,
it.
like you said. It was chaotic, and they had really no no direction. But now
Well,
you've got
pre-war
all these people and the help from Republicans, and now they're a fucking booming economy.
yeah, pre-World War II, they were a colonial whipping boy. I mean, every
Yeah,
country had a presence there, you know, sucking out natural resources and so forth, labor that they paid nothing for and so forth. And then it was nothing. Nobody thought anything about China ever becoming anything until post World War II, and then it really got the boost when the Republicans started sending all the jobs over there.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the companies and so forth. So yeah,
And they sent jobs over there because, like you said, it's cheaper. And it just brings us back to where it all starts. It starts with greed. How can we grift more money and
yeah.
make more money off the people in the middle class? And that's where the problem lies. Um, Joe Biden has proven that if you feed the middle class, make them healthy, make them prosperous, the entire country becomes prosperous.
Yeah.
If you feed the Republicans, eventually you will bleed the middle class dry and the whole thing will collapse. I mean, it's so short sighted. I don't fucking get it.
Let me give you an example of what's going on in my little county right now, which is, totally Republican, 78% for Trump the last election, right? Now, we have a bridge here, goes across the Holston River to Goshen Valley. It's in terrible shape, like many bridges are across the country. It's going to cost $14 million to fix this bridge. Now, $14 million in a county like Hawkins County, where I live, is a lot of money. Trust me. So everybody's going, oh, well, one guy goes, well, maybe we could ask Ukraine to send us some help, or something like that. But see, here's what's going on. Now, Joe Biden sent all of the states beaucoup bucks in infrastructure money. This huge infrastructure deal, right? I think it's like $320 million was part of Tennessee's share of it. Plus, they can qualify for more for specific projects and so forth, right? So all this money is there. What is the state of Tennessee going to do? The governor is trying to get the state legislature to pass, and they will pass, $1 billion tax cut for corporations. So instead of taking that infrastructure money and putting it into things like the Goshen Valley Bridge, they're essentially handing it to the corporations. And then they will have that money just to maintain what they normally do, rather than do projects like replacing bridges and everything else that the infrastructure money is actually meant to. It's just it's like vouchers for schools. They're trying to do that too. In every case, it is taking public money that is meant to improve the lives of everyone and giving it to rich people. That's what they're doing. That's the Republican way.
It absolutely is, and I wonder what you think about this. If the Democrats take the House, take the Senate, have the presidency, and things start turning the other way, do states like Tennessee or Alabama or Texas, do they do they adjust to, or do they continue on this spiral to death with the Republican point of view? Are they affected, even if they're still Republican reps in Tennessee, but the whole country is kind of shift to the left? Does that affect a state like yours? Or are you guys just off on an island continuing to fucking go down the rabbit hole?
Well, I can only speak from my own experience. Now, when I was a very little kid, this was a Republican state. At least this end of it. The East End was Republican. The other was all Democratic. That was from Nashville to Memphis was a Democratic stronghold, and it was a much better state. I mean, heck, Al Gore's father was our senator. Then Al
Yeah.
was our senator. I mean, we were basically a liberal state. But after Reagan, that started to change as the jobs here went away, went to China and so forth. So it's all economic. If we could get the economy going again, and if Democrats get credit for it, yeah, we could turn it around again. But also, the Democrats have to be in power when we draw the districts. We have the same thing going here that Alabama does.
Right.
Yeah, the Democrats can't take over because everything is gerrymandered to the point where it will always be a Republican taking that district unless it's redrawn.
Right.
So that is again a consequence of voting, and really Tennessee is one of the worst states in the nation, if not the worst, for voting turnout, because Democrats don't vote because there's no one to vote for, and Republicans, why should I vote? It's going to go this way. Old so and so is going to be in there until he dies, which is true.
Yeah. Yeah. There has
So
to
it
be a
can turn around. It can turn around, but it has to turn around economically first. and the Democrats have to get the credit for it.
And that's the one thing people have to understand is when we get to November, let's assume the Democrats get the House, they get the Senate, and of course, Joe Biden is the president. The world doesn't change immediately and everything
No,
gets better. We got a big hole to dig out of, and there's a lot of things that need to be changed. And when we're talking about government, it's a fucking process and it takes a long time. So once the Democrats do get power, people say, then what are you going to do? Well, you got to start fucking working harder, make sure that work gets done, make sure they don't say, yeah, we'll wait on codifying Roe v. Wade. We still got to put the pressure on the Democrats, even if they're completely in power. We've got a lot of work to do, and we can't trust the government to just do it on their own accord. They need the pressure from us.
absolutely. And with a guy like Trump out there, the temptation is to say, okay, Republicans are all evil, Democrats are all good, and that's bullshit. I
Yeah, it
mean,
is.
we've got Joe Manchin as an example to hold up.
Right.
Okay, this guy is just a Republican who pretends to be a Democrat, and there are others. The fact is that there are Democrats in charge of corporations. They're part of corporations, and that's the enemy. That corporate power is the enemy. You've already identified Citizens United.
Right.
That's part of it. We've got to break the corporate backbone. We got to get those taxes back up where they should be, 90% for the top. Force them to reinvest, force them to create jobs. We can do that. We've done it before. I've been around long enough to see it. And they will never, there has never been a corporation that is good. They are all bad. And they have to be taken, they have to be managed. And they have to be managed by people of goodwill who will make them do what they are supposed to do and not just siphon off money. Because if you look at 1980 on, the benefits of industrial production up until 1980, working people did better in good times than did the rich people.
Right.
And then it immediately changed, so that basically working people have been stuck since 1980, and the rich people have gotten all the benefits since then.
Well, you make a good point, and I've heard this talked about before. And when I first heard about it, I thought it makes no fucking sense. That's a little outrageous. But you were talking about how wealthy people were taxed at 90%. Now
Yeah.
that seems a little crazy, but when you think about it, they don't end up really paying 90%.
No.
It's what you said before. That's 90% if you just suck up money and put it in your pockets. It's
Right.
less than that if you reinvest and try to expand and try to improve things. So they're motivated to say, okay, we're being taxed at 90%. Let's take some of this money, give it back to the people, do some research and development and developing new things. What you're saying is they're forcing corporate America to progress and do things for the country and for their own people. And people will say, well, why can't you just let them do it on their own? Why won't they just do it on their own? Well, since 1980, they've had that opportunity and they haven't done it once. I'll remind you of trickle down fucking economics. That was the
Exactly.
concept for them. Oh, well, they'll do the right thing. No, they won't do the right thing.
Not
So
ever.
we have to force them to do it, unfortunately.
Exactly. And everybody wins then.
Yeah.
They are still fabulously wealthy because they also get benefits of that investment. Probably more than if it just sits there. I mean, this is the thing. They don't need a bigger yacht or 4 more yachts or whatever they're going to spend it on, right?
Right.
They don't need to send cars into space and so forth. No, no. I firmly believe we could conquer every disease that exists if we were putting the investment into the pharmaceutical and medical industries rather than just choosing a few products that really make money and suppressing the research on those that are the cash cows like cancer and so forth. We can do it, but it has to. That's what has to happen. And unfortunately, Democrats can be bribed too.
Well, whenever you talk about prescription medicine, And I've asked people, I've talked to people that are wealthy that said, how can you justify having prescriptions or medications so expensive here and not expensive in Canada? And what they'll always say to me is, well, it's got to be expensive. So they have the money and the motivation to find new cures and new medications. And I said, I've been in business before and I haven't always made a lot of money. And when I wasn't making a lot of money or when I was making okay money, I'm running a business. So it's always motivating to me to go progress and try to find new ways to make money or better ways to make money. The idea that you've got to drain every fucking human being of their entire life savings just so they can stay alive, that's a bullshit fucking argument. But that's the argument they do. Oh, you got to give us all the money. Otherwise, nothing good will happen. And that's just absolute bullshit.
It is bullshit because they don't put it into R&D, they put it into advertising.
Right,
And they
right,
advertise the very few things. Right now, it's the weight loss, the
right.
diabetes drugs where you lose weight. That they're advertising the shit out of those, and they're coming up with new ones that
Yeah.
do exactly the same thing. We don't need more than one
No.
if it works. But at the same time, a lot of the research is actually done in government labs and then assigned or given essentially to pharmaceutical companies to produce. Look at insulin. We had insulin for years and years and years for like $3 a dose, and then the companies decided, well, we'll improve it. So they fiddled around with it a little bit, and then they got patents, and now it costs $800 instead of $35.
Right.
Well, Biden lessened that at least for Medicare people, but it could be for everybody because they didn't even make it. They didn't even come up with it. They
No.
just tweaked it a little bit and then got the ownership of it. So, no, we need to break the pharmaceutical companies back. And you notice that every night when you're watching news or whatever, you'll see 15, 20 different ads for pharmaceutical products to address diseases you never heard of, or
Right, right.
it's very specific. Well, it's a kind of cancer that's only on Tuesdays, or whatever it is, right? And all this is recruiting for clinical trials. When you get right down to it, they're advertising so they can get people to take this and see what happens.
Right.
Well,
Well,
he
we were talking about this before we went on the air. I mentioned to you I have type 2 diabetes and my and my doctor put me on Ozempic. And Ozempic obviously has some side effects where you lose weight. And which I know this is surprising. I could stand to lose a pound or two. In fact, I was talking to my doctor and I said, let's be honest, if I just lost weight, I probably wouldn't have type 2 diabetes. She said, yeah. I go, well, then that's on me. And she goes, no, it's not on you. Here's some Ozempic. And I said, fuck it, I'll try it. And I did try it, and it's interesting. It does change your mindset about how you eat, and it does cause you to lose weight. But the interesting thing I found, there's a lot of people out there that are just taking Ozempic or the similar drugs to lose weight. Now, because I have type 2 diabetes, my healthcare covers it, right? Okay. So what it costs me, you take one shot a week. What it costs me is about $35 a month. Okay.
yeah.
Well, accidentally, somebody gave me two prescriptions. And since my medication only covers, one prescription a month, that one was wrong. And it said the bill on that one for the month would be $3,700. It's fucking outrageous. And
Yeah.
who the hell is paying $3,700 to lose weight? Get
Rich
up,
fat people.
get up, mix in a salad, and take a fucking walk. I'm not paying $3,700 to lose fucking weight. And the fact that it costs that much is absolutely bullshit. And I think
Mm-hmm.
Joe Biden's on the right track of trying to bring this down as much as the Republicans don't want it to be brought down. I think ultimately they're going to have to. They're going to price themselves out of business. We've got these boomers who are all going to need medication, and you're going to put them all in the poorhouse, and that's not going to be sustainable.
That's not that they have a platform, because they don't, but it is an intention of the Republican Party to do the following. They want to raise the retirement age to 70, for one thing, and they want to roll back anything that has been done on making pharmaceutical prices cheaper. That's two things they absolutely want to do if they get power. So that alone should tell you. I mean, people say, well, 67 to 70, is that really so bad? Another 3 years? Yeah, if you're a friggin' coal miner, it's a long time. I mean, people, I go to my food city and there's some older people working there, and they're working there because, quite frankly, they have to make ends meet, but they're really looking forward to retirement at 67. But another 3 years, would they make it? I don't know.
Well,
This is the thing.
since the Republicans love to look at everything as a free market and as a business situation, as somebody who is in business, I would put it to them this way. If I'm 15 years old and I enter into a deal with Social Security, the fact that you take it up to the last moment before you have to pay me back for my business deal I made with you and you decide to change it. If I was in a regular business deal, I'd say, fuck you. Something's wrong here. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're going to take all your money and they say, you know what? You're living a little bit longer, so we're just going to give you 2 more years or 3 more years before we pay you. If this was a regular business deal, I'd be punching somebody in the fucking throat.
Well, of course you would. And the idea is they know a certain percentage will never make it.
Right, right.
Rather than paying somebody Social Security for 3 years, they don't have to pay it at all. That is what it comes right down to. The other point is, now Social Security is not a savings account per se, right? It's a
No,
tax. It's
right,
a tax on the money you make and your employer makes that provides a benefit when you reach a certain age. It's almost like an insurance policy, right?
right,
You're making these payments, but in the form of a tax. Well, there are people that, for some reason, only have to pay a portion of that tax. They happen to
right.
be rich people.
Yeah.
I don't know what the limit is right now. Probably $100 and some. I mean, $100 and some thousand. Over that point, you don't have to pay that tax anymore, which is stupid. It's ridiculous. It's just something they made up. A tax should be a tax
Right.
on everybody equally. So if I make $80,000 a year, or I make $800,000 a year, I should still be paying that payroll tax. Um,
Even more so, unless you're not going to take Social
exactly.
Security when you're ready. You know, I wanted to ask you something to see what you think about this. It seems to me the Republicans are almost purposely trying to tank the November election. They wrap their arms around Roe v. Wade when 75% of the country supports Roe v. Wade. They um, they want to shut down TikTok when 170 million people are on TikTok. That's a
Mhm.
fucking loser right off the bat.
And making money on TikTok, I should,
And making
businesses,
yeah,
are,
absolutely. But then
it's an
then
economic enterprise.
but then the other day they come out and say, yeah, we do want to cut Social Security and Medicare. It's my contention is this. If you think it was bad with Roe v. Wade, wait till you tell people you're going to take away their Medicare and Social Security, because that is their livelihood. There are people of our age or older that live solely on Medicare and Social Security, and there is no distinguishing between Democrats and Republicans. It's all people in that range. And if you start fucking with that, you might as well give up. There's nobody going to vote for you. And they're doing this every step of the way toward November. It's like they're trying to tank the fucking election.
Well, they're counting on two things. First off, that people don't pay attention, and the other thing is they treat politics like religion. I'm a Republican the way I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
That's what they're counting on, and they don't believe that. They think that people will not believe the Republicans don't do that. I had this conversation with another friend of mine a while back, and I said the Republicans want to cut it. No, no, they couldn't do that because they'd lose all the votes. I said they don't care. Once they're in power, they're going to gerrymander. They're going to do whatever they can to stay in power, and they know these people are mostly watching Fox News. They're not listening. Their preachers telling them, "Oh, Democrats evil. We vote Republican. Oh, hallelujah." But this is what they're counting on. And the other thing you've got to realize that since Newt Gingrich, they have been throwing out, they've been reaching in, grabbing the good ones and tossing them away like anyway, I can't think of a good metaphor, but they've been getting rid of the good ones. So all they have now is like true believers,
Right.
true believers who think that the quote welfare state is what's wrong with this country today because it was better back before. And I must hasten to add what I said before still holds true. Before Franklin Roosevelt, living in this country, unless you were really rich, life sucked
Yeah.
big time.
Well, the thing is we're going to take a quick break here, but people have to wonder why they will say these things about Medicare and Social Security and Roe v. Wade when they know it might affect them at the ballot box. But I think you made a good point. There's two reasons they do it. First of all, they think the general public is stupid. My dad
Yes,
had a saying way back, and I don't know where he got it from, but he kept repeating it, and it sounded stupid to me. But he said, "The opinion of the elite or the politicians is that the masses are asses." I don't know where he got that from, but at the same time, they're doing to rich people and corporations exactly what the Republicans are doing to Donald Trump. They're messaging to Donald Trump or corporate America, see, we're on your side. We're going to get rid of Medicare. And that way the money keeps flowing into their pockets from the corporate fucks. And that's more important than the votes. They can always go back and say, oh, I didn't say that. But they got to get that money from corporations.
absolutely. On the Democratic side, let me throw this in. The Democrats right now have just put up a bill where they want to change the way that the COLA is figured on Social Security because older people make more use of health care. So consequently, the cost of health care is more important to them. So they want to rechain it so that the we get more COLA. The
Okay.
older folks, um, it's addressed that way. It's health care and housing. They want to change the way that they figure what the increase should be each year. And that's what the Democrats are doing. They're trying to make it better. Republicans want to get rid of both Social Security and Medicare. Take it to
And,
the bank.
right. And those young people out there that would begrudge old people from getting more money in Social Security, I just want to fucking tell you, you're going to be here soon. And it comes quicker than you think. By stepping on us or stepping on the older people, you're fucking yourself over. So use your brain, think ahead, and get what's coming to us as opposed to what the Republicans want to steal from us. Ed, we're going to take a quick break and we got a lot more stuff to talk about. So we'll be back right after this. Oh, go ahead.
Before we go, human pig hybrids.
Okay, we'll be talking about that. Yeah. Got to have a conspiracy theory and all this shit. Absolutely. All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Ed joins me on the show as he commonly does on Saturdays. Um, Now, Ed, a lot of people on TikTok and in podcasts, they'll give you a little teaser and then
Right.
they'll wait till the end of the show to tell you that. So you have to hang in there. I trust that my listeners will hang in there regardless. So we're not
Yeah.
going to bury the lead on this. You brought
No.
up something big and we need to fucking talk about it and get that motherfucker out of the way. So repeat what you said before we took the break.
Human pig hybrids. Now, I don't know
Wow.
if I know you're a big follower of that great luminary, one of the great intellects of our generation, Alex Jones.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Big time.
is there a more reprehensible person in the history of mankind? I'm not even sure he is. But as a matter of fact, when you start talking human pig hybrids, well, he's probably on the fence anyway. But no, he used to rail about this. I mean, this
Right.
is one of his go-tos. I never, to be honest with you, I've never watched an Alex Jones. What is he on? Internet? I don't know. I guess
Yeah.
it's a podcast, whatever. I've
Something.
never actually watched one, but he gets press on the sides, and I know he was always talking about these human pig hybrids, warning about they're coming, they're going to do it. Well, it turns out he was right.
Seriously?
Yes,
There is
they
such a
just
thing?
they no, well, no, not really. They just put a pig kidney in a
Oh,
guy who had rejected a human kidney. They did some fiddling with the DNA, this is the
wow.
way you do it. You fiddle with the DNA, and it accepted the pig kidney, right? And some people are thinking, okay, maybe you may be in line for one someday, and
The
this
first step.
Ozempic doesn't work.
If, yeah.
No, but seriously, they did do this. I mean, they've used them before, pig valves in
Right.
heart surgery. They've done that. Well, now they've fiddled around, and so not only can you get bacon, you can also get a kidney.
Nice. Nice.
You know,
We're going
but
to hell in a handbasket
oh,
when Alex Jones starts predicting things that come true.
true.
We're in a world of fucking trouble here.
It is, but that's the first thing I thought about. It's been on all over now. I mean, it's like the media now. They get a story, they can't let it go. Can't do one. Well, they put a pig kidney in this guy, and also now the weather. But no, they have to keep it going, right? So, and who knows? I suppose they could do other things.
It amazes me that Alex Jones is still talking. I mean, he's absolutely
Uh huh.
buried financially. They are going to take him for all he's got. They beat him in court, but I know there's a lot of questions. Alex Jones, Rudy Giuliani, maybe even Donald Trump. They file bankruptcy
Yeah.
now. Now people wonder why they file bankruptcy because the bankruptcy doesn't discharge those decisions. They still
Right.
owe the money.
Right.
And I found out the reason why they do that is while it doesn't discharge the money, they're going to have to pay the money, but it does slow things down.
Mm-hmm.
It gets the wolves off the door temporarily, but not forever. It's like Donald Trump. It's let's delay the inevitable. I'd rather get my ass kicked 2 months from now as opposed to today. I'm still going to get my ass kicked, but I'd like to delay it a couple months. So that's why he does the he does he filed bankruptcy and Rudy Giuliani filed bankruptcy. But now Donald Trump's got a big bill coming due like in a day or two.
Yeah. Monday.
Half a billion dollars.
Yeah.
Um, were you surprised when his people came forward and says, fuck, we ain't got it. We don't know where to go. We've gone to 30 different places and they all said no. Well, big surprise. He's a horrible
Yeah.
risk and he's got no
Right.
money. So,
Right, and what's his face? His ex-lawyer who went to jail, Cohen.
oh,
He says it's all his properties are leveraged already, so they're not going to loan him against his properties because somebody else already essentially owns them.
right.
Yeah, he's between a rock and a hard place. I've also seen that his advisors keep telling him take the bankruptcy, but he's reluctant to do it because he thinks it'll hurt his brand, and going into the election, So, which is probably true, but
Well,
I'd love to see Guy broke. What I'm waiting for is for Letitia James to be standing on the steps of Trump Force One saying, "It's mine now, baby."
well, you heard what Letitia James did, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yesterday, we heard the story that she already went to Westchester County
Mm-hmm.
and filed judgments against Seven Springs residential area and his golf course, the Trump
Yeah.
National Golf Course. So she's already prodding that motherfucker. She's
Oh
got
yeah,
no confidence that he's going to come up with a cash
no,
Monday, and she's going to hit the ground fucking running. So, because she's
yeah,
already made those judgments. And let's be honest, those two properties aren't going to be enough to satisfy what
oh
Letitia
no,
James has won.
no, nowhere near. She wants to make the guy, she wants to put him out on the street with a tin cup, or at least have to issue some more trading cards.
Well, Donald Trump's in a bad situation here. He's all about the delay, right? He's all
Yeah,
about the delay, and if he filed bankruptcy, it doesn't fix anything. He still has to pay it. It just gives him a little extra time. But the real rub here for Donald Trump is there's something more important, and that's his image. And his image is
yeah,
taking a beating now because we're finding out he's broke as a fucking joke. But if he files bankruptcy, it's funny to me. He thinks, God, it could hurt my chances in the election. It could wreck my image. And that's what's most important with Donald
yeah,
Trump, his perception, the perception people have of him. He is so mentally twisted. He would rather go to jail than fuck up his image. That's more important to him. So by filing bankruptcy, it might buy him a little time, but he's worried about how it makes him look. Which is funny when you think about a guy whose taxes have been revealed, and he lost $1 billion over a period of 4 or 5 years. He's been charged with 91 felony charges. He's been on audio tape committing crimes against this country. The FBI has come down and searched his house and took stolen documents out of there. And this is a motherfucker worried about his image.
yeah.
That's how stupid he is.
Well, what can I say? He's a guy who has never been anything but image. I mean,
Absolutely.
so he realizes that that's what he is just the image that he creates, whether it's this golden boy wonderkin of real estate, back in the 80s, or it's this um, TV, mover and shaker on reality television. All of this has been a fiction all along. Of course, he was cruising on his daddy's money until he managed to lose most of it.
Right.
So yeah, image is everything. If he can stick his name on something, he's happy. And if he thinks, and that's why he glories in all of these schmucks who show up at these rallies. He's addicted to these rallies because he gets this approbation from the crowd, even though they're idiots. It's better than not, I guess, for him.
Well, and this is what I keep saying. I don't know that people grasp what I'm trying to say because it's kind of a intangible, at least for most of us, it would be intangible. But I always suggest that he may not emotionally or physically make it to be the nominee because he'll be crushed by what he's going through right now. It would crush anybody.
I
But
hope
more
so.
but more importantly is that his image is taking a beating. Very shortly, it'll all be revealed. He's not powerful. He's not smart. He's not rich. He's not a billionaire. Everything's being taken away from him. And at that moment in time, when he realizes that everybody else realizes that he's a piece of shit, that's when this motherfucker crumbles. He can't continue on because he's got no way to spin it, no way to bully his way through. Everything's been revealed. He's in a corner. He can get no way out, and that's when narcissists pretty much implode. And typically they will bolt, but I don't know where he can go. Everybody knows who he is.
Well, this is it. I mean, especially if Letitia takes his plane. I don't. I Who would welcome him? I mean, he can't go to North Korea. He can't go to Russia. They don't want him. A Trump who isn't in the White House is of no use to them whatsoever.
Right.
Nor would, and Saudi Arabia. Nah, they'll take back the money they gave Kushner.
Right.
As
Exactly.
soon as it's obvious that Trump's not going to be back in the White House, that's for sure. He has no friends. It's always funny to me, when he goes to a rally, he comes out applauding and he always goes, oh, it points like he knows somebody in the audience. And I know that's bullshit, right? Trump has no friends
No.
at all. He has hangers on. He has people who figure they can get something if they cozy up to him or something like that. But he has no friends.
I've always compared this to and I was talking to a boss of mine just before he retired. And he was actually a well-liked boss. So I don't know if it was so much for him. but one of the things I've realized after working for these many years, you get a guy who may be kind of a tough boss, a hard-nosed boss, to taskmaster. And when he's the boss, everybody's going, yes, sir, you're brilliant. Yeah, yes, sir, yes, sir. Moment that fucker retires and walks out the door, he's the butt of every joke. Everybody's ready to talk shit about him. And that's what happens when these bosses leave and retire. And that's exactly where Donald Trump is. He's at the breaking point. People bowed to him because he had perceived power and perceived money. But once that's gone, everybody will abandon him. He will be the butt of every joke with Democrats and Republicans. I don't know that he understands that's coming, but make no mistake, it's fucking coming.
Yeah, and that will be the crusher, and that's the one I'm looking for. I'm looking for when he tries to dial Mike Johnson and Mike doesn't pick up.
Right,
You know,
right, exactly.
yeah. Let me tell you a quick story here. I'm not going to name the guy, but I worked while I was in radio. When I was first in radio, it wasn't quite paying the bills, so I worked at a museum,
Right,
and the guy who ran the museum was kind of an asshole. He was a short guy, and he had the little man syndrome. And I wasn't in the staff meetings they had every day, but I had a friend who told me every day he would pick out somebody and humiliate them or chew them out or something, depending on whatever whether it was a membership or whatever it was. He would always get somebody every day, and people just came to expect it and kind of cowered in their seats and so forth. And when he was going through the museum, he would rag on guards, do different things and so forth. And he was generally just totally unliked. But
right,
he was so obsequious with rich people because he knew they paid the bills, right? I
right,
mean, he knew what to kiss and when and frequently. And he knew all of the moneyed Pillsbury's and everybody in Minnesota. He knew where the fountain was and how to turn it on and off and so forth. And everybody really hated the guy. All right. And he pushed through this big project with the museum. He got it going and everything. It was everything. And then he retired and went off to New York. Well, when this project was finished, he came back and I was sent to the airport to pick him up. The guy treated me like I was his long lost friend. I mean, he
yeah,
knew
of
my
course.
face, he didn't know my name or anything, but he was suddenly the sweetest guy you ever met. And and he was when he was back at the museum, he was talking to people that I saw him apologize to somebody for something from 20 years before. And I don't know what it was, if that was just his management style or if he had time to reflect when he wasn't in the middle of it or anything. But he suddenly became this really nice guy. That doesn't mean that I thought he made up for what he was before, but it was a definite change, and I did take note of it.
It was a different, yeah, I had a similar experience. You won't be surprised to surprised to find out I didn't. When we worked at the radio station we worked at, and the management was trying to push people out, and they were most certainly trying to push me out, and I usurped them a little bit by retiring on the spot and telling them to fuck off. One day, my wife and I are at a restaurant. Okay, and this is long after I retired, a couple of years maybe, and we're sitting at the restaurant having a good time, like my wife and I do. And all of a sudden, this manager, who I do not like, I think he's incompetent. I think he's talentless, and I think he's a piece of shit. And I do to this day. And I don't forget about that shit. And so he walks up to the table, trying to be cordial, and he goes, "Hi, Mike. How you doing?" And my wife says, "I've never seen this look on your face. You're not a guy that gets angry. You're not a guy that's mean." He said, "But you had so much anger in your eyes, and you looked up to this guy." And I look at him, I go, "What the fuck do you want?" And he looked at me kind of taken aback because he figured all was well now because I'm gone and now he's doing what he's doing. It's all forgotten. No, motherfucker, I don't forget. Not only what you tried to do to me, but what you did to other people. You will forever be an asshole and a fucking, you know, a piece of shit. And I don't care what you say. I'm going to demon to me, and I will treat you as such. That's what people have to understand. You can't fuck with people's lives and expect them to forgive you because it's all over now. I don't know, maybe normal people do, but I don't. And if I saw that fucker today, I'd be just as fucking abusive today, 8 years after the fact, because people should not get away with that shit.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and
You're a better
I
guy than I am. You're more diplomatic than I am. I tend to be in people's faces, so it works differently with me.
well, after the incident where you left,
Yeah.
um, I went in. I requested a meeting with him and the woman manager there,
Yeah.
and they wanted to know what I wanted. And I said, first off, we got pledge drive coming up next week, and what you just did was fuck up the best pledge raising apparatus that ever existed at this station. And I threw in a few swear words. I said, you broke up me and Mike, who are responsible for 60% of the money that comes into this station every friggin' pledge drive. And that's true,
Yeah.
you know? And I read him the right act up one side, down the other. And I said, and also, I'm telling you, I'm retiring in December. And that was it, because I knew they were coming after me next,
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That, they'd cut off their nose to spite their face. They wanted to save a couple of bucks an hour in pay, and they ended up fucking themselves over. I will say this, and you probably concur with your situation too. At the moment you decide to retire or leave, it's a little stressful. You're going, oh my God, what's going to happen? Um, since the time I retired, nothing but goods happen. I'm better off
Same
than I
here.
was. I'm happier. I'm making more money. Fuck those people. I should have made that step much earlier, and I would have been better off for a longer period of time.
Well, my wife had been pushing me for a year to retire, so it wasn't a big thing on my part, but I wanted to, put the knife in to a certain extent. Um, while back, um, because they were redoing the station, I got a note from the guy you're talking about, and he asked me if I wanted the sign that said newsroom. And I said, sure. And so he actually sent it to me, and I have it here. Um,
Wow.
um, and,
Oh, yeah, looks familiar.
uh,
Looks,
but uh, anyway, at the same, he said, and by the way, we haven't had a morning guy who asked it for more than a year since you left.
yeah.
That was 7 years ago,
Well,
which is true.
and the thing about it is a day or two after I resign, they call me up and they say, "Hey, Mike, do you want to come back and say goodbye to all your listeners?" I said, fuck you. I'm never going back on that station again. I won't do anything for you. I won't donate money. I won't help you in any way because the station I work for that I cared about is no longer in existence because you dumb fucks have run it into the ground. And I've gotten people say to me, would you come back and do? No, fuck no. I'm not doing anything. I told them, I said, look, I'm going to do something on the internet and I'll get more listeners than you ever fucking had on the station. And he laughed. And here we are with more listeners and more viewers than fucking the radio station. I don't know. We kind of get off track here. The reason I brought that up is because that's where Donald Trump's at that tipping point right
Yeah,
now. He's had all
he
this
is.
adulation and all this people supporting him. But once he becomes useless, once he becomes exposed for what he is, that shit goes away quick.
Yeah, and I can't wait for it. There's no one who has ever deserved it more, except maybe Alex Jones. Actually, I mean, Alex Jones is what he is. He's what he's
Yeah.
always been, and only the truly idiotic have ever listened to him or put any stock in anything he has to say, except human pig hybrids. But um, Trump is Trump is dangerous. People have died because of Trump, probably because of Alex Jones too, but definitely because of Trump. It's like the lady I told you about before, whose husband got COVID. That was related to the fact that Donald Trump was downplaying the dangers of COVID. And there's about a million other people in the same boat.
Well,
I saw another lady this morning, right out, the wife of a cousin of mine who died from COVID. Who they were in the same way, put off track by the fact that Donald Trump was telling them, "Oh, it's going away. It's not a big deal. Look, I had it. I took some horse dewormer, and I'm fine." Give me a break.
Alex Jones is kind of like the pimple on the ass of this country. Donald
Yeah,
Trump is like an out of control goiter around our fucking neck. They're
it's
both a
true.
problem, but Donald Trump is certainly the most dangerous. Alex Jones is going to fade away and be unimportant. And Donald Trump will too. But on the way out, he's creating all kinds of havoc and chaos. Uh, I said when he came into office, I said he will ultimately destroy the Republican Party. And I think I've been proven right there. He's already destroyed the Republican Party. Uh, but how much worse do you think it can get before he's finally done? Because he's not going to leave quietly, and he's not going to not tip over some chairs and tear up a fucking hotel room before he goes. The question is, who's going to get the brunt?
I have to believe that those in power, and I'm talking about Joe Biden and others, have to have sat down and said, "How are we going to deal with this guy
Right.
when he loses?" Which he will. Are we going to have to deploy troops, or what are we going to have to do to deal with this guy? Um, I am sorry that guys like Mitch McConnell couldn't put the country ahead of party enough to impeach him, because if they had impeached him, he would never have been able to run, and
Yeah.
it could have been nipped in the bud. I mean, McCartney didn't have to go down there, and McCarthy
Yeah.
didn't have to go down there and talk to him. None of this resurgence did not have to happen, and that's on the Republican Party, and they should be destroyed. They
Yeah.
should be totally destroyed because of that. I'm fine with having a conservative party. Let them rise out of the ashes if they want to. I really do believe when you have the two sides negotiating, you get the best result. Because then everybody's not always continuing to fight about something if you can resolve it. So, yeah, I don't mind having two parties if they are actually trying to make the country better and not just work for a bunch of rich people.
And that's why I wonder if the Republican Party at large is trying to destroy the party. I mean, it's kind of like, having a house full of mold,
Yeah,
and instead of fixing it, you just tear the motherfucker down and put up a new one because you can't
yeah,
fix the rot in that house. And I think there is so much rot in the Republican Party. I think some of the more reasonable minded folks, and I say that with quotation marks because that's all subjective. But like the Liz Cheneys and those people like that, they realize the only way they're going to get back to a normal Republican Party is if this one gets destroyed. It's too rotted, and they need to be done with MAGA, be done with all the crazy fucks in there. And if you don't kill them, they're still going to stick around and eventually metastasize again.
absolutely. Now, there is if it were just the politicians, I mean, the old line Republicans versus these new guys, but then you got to throw in the element of the Mike Johnsons, the
Right.
Christian nationalists, and that's not going away either. That's something that's going to have to be dealt with at some point because they have recruited a lot of big money people. And that's not going to go away. They are actually pushing for the Handmaid's Tale, trust me.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
this is no exaggeration, none. And they are now also, they're not quite in control of the Republican Party yet, but that's what they want. And if that happens, maybe we will have a civil war. Maybe that's the only way out of it. I don't know.
Well, you brought up something earlier, and I was just thinking about this. I hadn't thought about it. Um, Ken Buck. He was going to
Yeah,
retire at the end of his term, and then he said, "No, I'm going to retire now." And that was kind of a big fuck you to the Republicans because it
right.
cost them another seat as far as their majority. But it was also a fuck you to Lauren Boebert because now
Yeah,
she can't run in the special election, and now she'll have to run in against an incumbent in a race she can't win anyway. But you also mentioned that he said he wasn't going to be the first one.
No.
We know there's a two seat margin between the Democrats and the Republicans. So what happens if Ken Buck's right and he isn't the first one, and three more Republicans, relatively reasonably minded Republicans, are just tired of the bullshit, tired of being attached to this joke of a caucus, the chaos caucus, and just says fuck you to the Republicans and walks out. So then the Democrats would have the majority, and then naturally Hakeem Jeffries would be elected the Speaker of the House, and then Mike Johnson is fucking nobody. That could
That's right.
happen, and that may lend what I was talking about before is crashing the Republican Party and just burning it
Mhm.
to the ground. And some of these reasonable minded people could do that, understanding that once it's all over, they will have at least some good guy persona because they were part and parcel to taking this fucking mess down. That could
Uh,
happen.
it could happen. It needs to be the right ones who resign,
Yeah.
or because if it's a reliable Republican district, they just put up another Republican and you have no gain, right?
Right.
But if it was somebody from a district that maybe had previously been Democratic or so forth, or is a mixed district, if somebody was had enough patriotic zeal to say the best thing I can do is resign and let a Democrat have my spot, you
You
know.
know, but I'm not even really talking about the November election. You know,
No,
what's going to
before
happen then?
then,
But yeah, before then, if they quit tomorrow, three people quit tomorrow, we're
yeah,
at least 3 or 4 months out before a special election. So for
yeah,
3 or 4 months, the Democrats are in control, and that fucks everything up for them. That's what I'm
yep.
saying is I don't know what's going to happen in November. I think a lot could be determined if the Democrats took over and did some good things. That might hurt them even further. But some of these people may be so frustrated and so tired of being associated with these crazy fucks that if they did that, that could put the Republicans in a tremendous hole by all of a sudden putting the Democrats in the majority, even if it's a slim majority, and kicking Mike Johnson out. Now this guy has all the power and all the glory of being a Speaker of the House. Now he's nobody. That would be an incredible fucking happening. That would be a huge story.
Yeah, and that from your lips to God's ear, as they say. I really, really wish that would happen, and it could happen, and it might happen. And the very fact that this budget seems to have passed in the House tells me that there are enough Republicans who are tired of this. And we see also the impeachment now
Right.
has fallen completely apart, and nothing's going to happen there. I think they're going to do some bogus referral to DOJ or something, which is not going to go anywhere.
No.
But this shows all the money and time they've wasted on this. That surely there's a number of them who said, this stops now. We're not doing this anymore. We're going to pass this budget and get past this.
Right. Right.
You know, we've got races coming up that we have to go back and try to win, and we got nothing. You know, we've had Republicans giving speeches to the House saying we got nothing. We've done nothing.
Well, it amazes me with these hearings they've had on trying to dig out the dirt on the Biden crime family. Every time they have a hearing, they get embarrassed. It's funny watching Jamie Raskin, Eric Swalwell, uh, uh, Moskowitz, and all these people just sit back, take pot shots, and embarrass the fuck out of them. And they
Yeah.
just keep doing it. They apparently aren't affected by being embarrassed and exposed for the ignorance they are. But it tells you something about how desperate they are. They've got an election coming up in what, 7 months, and they've got to find a way to beat Joe Biden. And they're still pounding on this impeachment thing after 15 months of looking into Joe Biden and still having no evidence and having two-star witnesses that are currently in jail because they were assets for China and fucking Russia. But they still keep pounding on it. That's why Joe Biden said, we might as well wrap this fucker up. And they said, you can't tell us when to wrap it up. Well, you can't tell yourself when to wrap it up because this fucker was over a year ago.
Yeah. It was over before it started because there was no there there. We all knew that, and it's, they've been picking on Biden's kid forever. Granted, the guy's made some mistakes. There's no doubt about that. But so what? Look at Trump's kids. You
Well,
know,
yeah. But it's all about performance with Republicans. The Republicans wanted Hunter Biden to come in and testify, and we can't do it in public. We got to do it behind closed doors. So Hunter Biden does that, embarrasses the fuck out of them because they underestimated him. They thought he was a drugged out goofball, but he's in fact a Ivy League lawyer too. Now that he's straightened
yeah,
out, and he made these idiots look even dumber. So they said, "Well, now come to a public hearing. We're going to have a public hearing on this point." They knew he wasn't going to come because
right.
he has a fucking trial in Los Angeles. He can't come. He probably would if he couldn't. So now, all about performance, they set up this hearing and put an empty chair where Hunter Biden's supposed to be, and they're talking shit about Hunter Biden not showing. Well, the motherfucker did show up. He embarrassed you. He can't show up because he's on trial, and you knew that. And it's just all about fucking performance.
Yeah. Exactly. And, they're playing the Fox News, and Fox is running the hell out of it.
Oh,
And
of
this is
course.
another point. We got to do something about that. I mean, freedom of speech is one thing, freedom to lie is not freedom of speech.
Right.
It's just lying. Okay. Fox lies. It's what they do. Shut them down.
Yeah. One of the things we need to do in this country in the media, and I don't know if they're ready to do it. I've said this from the beginning. If the media handled Donald Trump properly in 2015, Donald Trump would never have been a thing. He comes out and says whatever the crazy things he wants, and the media sits back and go, "Oh my, that's good for ratings." They don't take him to task. They don't put him in a corner and make him answer the questions. I told people I had a Trumplafuck on the show one time, and I was trying to illustrate what I meant. I would say something, and then they would talk circles, and then I'd say, "No, come back here. We're going to talk again," and keep pushing them. And that's when they start to break. Now, this guy's been talking to me about coming on his live, which I did. I just popped in at like 1 in the morning. I said, "All right, motherfucker, let's talk." And we went at it a little bit, and he was talking in circles, and he looked stupid. And then eventually I got warnings, and then they knocked me out of the live because the Trumplafucks were upset that I was spewing facts, and this dumb fuck couldn't answer it. But had we done that in the beginning, we would have never had to deal with Donald Trump. So this is why I hold the media so responsible for the
Mhm.
situation we're in. It's not just Fox News is the worst.
Yeah.
But
But
we've
it's
got a
not just
problem with
Fox.
all the media, because they don't tell us the whole story, and they're just leading us down the path so that we get excited and upset so that they can get ratings. And you were a news director.
Yeah.
Tell me if I'm wrong. There is no journalism in this country at all, anywhere that I know of. I mean, maybe on BBC or maybe an AP to a certain extent, but largely journalism as we know it no longer exists.
I would agree with that. Certainly not broadcast journalism.
No.
Occasionally, you'll see 60 Minutes do something. Most of the in-depth work is being done by comedians,
Yeah,
John
oddly enough.
Oliver and so forth. These are the people that actually you can actually listen to, and you get a laugh out of it at the same time, um, usually.
Yeah,
But no, number one, they don't teach you journalism in broadcast school. I
no.
mean, you go to college and so forth, whatever. Journalism is pretty much dead. I mean, the newspapers, there's a few left, Washington Post, New York Times, a few others around the country that actually do journalism. But mostly it's just opinion pieces and um, fluff. It's not real journalism where you take 6 months to develop a story and you get you check everything to make sure that it's real and so forth. That's just not, you don't have time to do it anymore. You've got the unforgiving 24-hour clock that you got to fill, you know, and producers are doing most of the work and everybody else is reading off teleprompters and throwing in their opinion.
The Watergate story back in the 70s with those two guys. That was actually journalism because a lot was
Yeah.
done, a lot was investigated, a lot was revealed. Um, but as somebody who was a former news person and news director, how, how dangerous is it that when we have a country that either is misinformed or underinformed, and the vast majority of the people really don't know what the fuck is going on because they're not being told. Most people get their media easy, watch it on TV, look at it on the internet, read some headlines, and that's all they know. I mean, I can't tell you how many headlines I see that it fucking totally tell a different story than when you read the body of the fucking article. But I think this is immensely dangerous to this country, whether the Democrats win or not. We need to be better informed, and people need to have the motivation to dig out the fucking facts.
Well, let's go back. Let's go back to human pig hybrids for a
Yeah,
moment.
let's talk about that.
No, seriously though, I mean, here I'm sure that Alex Jones somewhere along the line saw something about a pig valve being used in heart surgery,
Oh, yeah.
and from that he developed this whole. They're developing these human pig hybrids, ooh, scary stuff, right? So a half truth is worse than a lie,
Absolutely.
and that's what Fox, OAN, Newsmax, they deal in half truths. They'll tell you so and so went here and did this today. True. But then they'll throw in 10 lies with it, you
Right.
know?
Right.
So you hook them with the truth and then you stick in the lie. And that's what the right wing media has been doing. That's what tabloids have always done.
Right.
And that's all. Fox News is nothing but a tabloid. You know, it used to be when you went to the grocery store, there were like 10 of them
Right.
there that with these outlandish titles and pictures of Hillary Clinton holding the alien's baby or whatever it might be. And but that's all Fox is. It's
Yeah.
just the tabloid put on TV because that's where Rupert made his money,
Right.
you know, and that was his industry in England before Reagan brought him over here to create his own
Right.
right wing industry. You know, everything evil goes back to Reagan. It,
Pretty much. Pretty
pretty
much.
much.
Now, the thing is, I still get people today, they go, how are you so certain that Donald Trump will not win the presidential election? And I always say, how are you certain that he's going to win? I mean, this is a perfect example of the media. They will come out and tell you, well, the polls say Donald Trump is winning. Donald Trump's going to win. And then everybody freaks out and they say, how can you possibly believe that? And I give them my standard little speech. I said, first of all, he lost by 7 million votes in 2020. Tell me what he's done to improve his lot since then. Nothing. He's made it worse. He's running out of money. He's fundraising half as much as Joe Biden. After the Super Tuesday, Joe Biden went to 8 or 9 states to campaign. Donald Trump went to 2. He had a campaign stop in Arizona. He had to cancel it because he doesn't have fucking money. Donald Trump embraces overturning Roe v. Wade. 75% of the country disagree with him. Donald Trump is going to find a different situation in the voting if he's convicted of a felony. That's what the polls say. Coming up in mid-April, he's going on trial for 34 felony charges. Don't tell me he's running the table. He will get multiple charges. So when you factor in all those things, please tell me how you can even think that he has a fucking prayer. He doesn't.
Well, I saw a statement from I can't remember the Republican guy's name, but he worked with Reagan early on, and he
Mhm.
said, "What we have here, this is a Republican guy, right?" He said, "What people forget is that Reagan and Carter were neck and neck up until October."
Yeah.
He said it was like having a bag full of water. All of a sudden, the bottom fell out for Carter, and Reagan swept in a landslide. He said that's what's going to happen this year, only it's going to be Biden. It's going to go back and forth. They're going to be right up until October. The bottom's going to fall out and Trump will be washed away. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
going to be huge. It's going to be huge. And this is coming from a Republican, a Reagan Republican.
I agree. The same thing happened with Bill Clinton. George Bush was the most popular fucking president ever when he was in that war. And then the
Yeah,
economy went to shit, and some nobody out of fucking nowhere ends up winning the presidency. And the only reason he was the nominee is because people were so afraid to go against George Bush that they thought they'd lose. But he hung in there till the last minute, and he caught a fucking wave. That's
yeah.
all there was. And the economy's not going anywhere between now and November. It just keeps
Mhm.
booming. Um, and people always say, yeah, but stuff's so expensive, and inflation and all this stuff. And I explain to them, I say, you know why stuff's expensive? It's because of greed. And you know why
Mhm.
there's greed? Because Republicans like to take regulations off. They like to not tax these motherfuckers, and they can get away with anything. You put the Democrats in charge, there's going to be some guidelines. There's going to be some fences put up where they can't continue to fucking destroy this country by stealing from the middle class.
And this, I agree with you 1,000% with this caveat. Democrats have to deliver. when they
Absolutely.
get when they get the Senate and the House and the presidency again, they have to codify Wade and all of the other right to privacy things, contraception and so forth. But they have to kick corporate butt.
Yeah.
They gotta pull a Teddy Roosevelt. They gotta break up Apple. They gotta break up Amazon. They gotta break up all of these huge multinational corporations. Smash them. They'll
Yeah.
still make money, smash, but make them earn it.
Yeah.
Right now, all they're doing is they're taking all this money and they're doing stock buybacks to make more money, you know,
Yeah.
and
They're printing
that's got
money.
to stop.
Well, were you heartened by this recent DOJ thing about
Yes.
this thing against Apple? Do you think that's a good
Yeah.
start to what we need to get done?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what Apple is doing, and I have Apple products. I'm glad there's Apple. I've got a smartphone. My wife has an Apple computer and so forth. I think they do those things well, but they could very easily make it so that I could send video to somebody with an Android, right?
Yeah.
I mean, let's work for the good of everybody, not just for the profit of the one. That's what it comes down to. That's what this country is all about. Otherwise, we're just a different version of an oligarchy.
Right.
Um, uh, I mean, we are nothing but an oligarchy if we let the corporations do everything we want to. That's why we have to have regulation. That's why we have to have an even playing field, because if you're always going uphill, you can't ever win. That's
Well,
what the Democrats have to do, level the playing field for everybody.
Republicans don't want regulations because they want the rich to be unencumbered and do whatever they want, and suggest that they will police themselves. History has shown that's a fucking
It don't
bullshit. They
work.
just take advantage. It's just like giving money to the rich. Well, we'll give it to the rich. They'll know what to do with it, and they'll help everybody out. Hasn't worked. So if that doesn't work, we have to make some other plans. And this is why, people that don't behave need fucking rules. They need
Exactly.
regulations, and the corporations and the rich people don't behave like they're supposed
Well,
to, or like they were uh, sold to be doing.
Well, look what's going on in the airline industry right now. You got Boeing, you got United. Every day it's another plane thing, right? A
Right.
wheel falls off, the brakes don't work, the door falls off, all of this. Why is that happening? It's because the people building these planes are overworked and there's not enough of them, because the company's more interested in profit than they are building a plane that will fucking fly and not
Right.
fall out of the air. Right? It's the same with cars. Every few years you get a thing where suddenly your Pinto's exploding in flames, or whatever it is, right? Do those CEOs ever go to jail because when people die? No, they don't. They pay a little bit of money here or there, lock them up, make them pay. That's what you need. You need to address the real problem, which is always at the top. It's not the guy who is doing four people's jobs and trying to get, so he forgets to put the four bolts in. That's what's going on at Boeing. We all know that. Oh, the safety is our most important product. Bullshit. Your bottom line is your most important product. Your stock buybacks are your most important product. So, as a CEO, you can make $40 billion a year, whatever
Right.
they pay you. No, that's got to stop. And the Democrats have to come down hard. They have to come down heavy, and they have to do it quick.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of work to be done come November when they actually have some power. And hopefully, like you say, uh, some people say, you're just worrying too much. But I know how history goes. When they get the power, we have to make sure they don't say, well, we got the power now. It's been crazy the last 5, 6 years. We can just relax a bit and just wait on this and wait on that. These motherfuckers, if they get power, they better get on the fucking track and start running right away because you got a long way to go to fix a lot of stuff. And that's what's going to be on us. We're hard on the Republicans because they're fucking a dumpster fire. But we need to still, I've had people come to me, and if I say something about the Democrats and they go, I don't believe you. That's not true. And you got to vote blue. Otherwise, we're going to go into Armageddon. I said, listen, be careful. The Republicans got in their little club. They don't care what their club does. They support them regardless. Democrats can't do that. We
No.
can support the Democrats, but they better do what they're supposed to do. Otherwise, be ready to push back. If you give people free reign to do whatever the fuck they want, they will do whatever the fuck they want. And that's Democrat or Republican.
Absolutely, and that's we have to hold the feet to the fire. That's it. I mean, and I have seen what I considered really good politicians be turned.
Oh,
There,
yeah.
yeah, there's an old movie many years ago. It's called The Seduction of Joe Tynan,
Yeah.
starring Alan Alda, about a liberal politician who gets involved in it. Meryl Streep's first, well, her second big role is in it, and it's a good film, and it shows how easily it is for a good politician to be turned, um, and for want of power or whatever it is. Look it up. You probably find it streaming somewhere. The Seduction of Joe Tynan.
Yeah, it was a very good movie, and it was a very, very well received movie. And then that's the point. When you send people to Washington, D.C., and you pour buckets of money in their pocket, it's amazing how they can change their stripes. And we've seen it done with Democrats and Republicans. And as much as the Republicans are horrific now, we're not safe with Democrats either unless we stay on top of them. There are Democrats that support the NRA. There are Democrats that support pro life. There are Democrats that support giving money to the rich. I'm
Yeah,
not
there are
saying,
Democrats who make money from coal mines, Joe Manchin.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we have to put out the fire. That's the priority right now. But when the fire
Yeah.
is going on, there's shit still smoldering and we can't step back. We got to keep pouring water on this shit so that we fix what the problem we have. I've told people, I said, you know why we are where we are with the Democrats and the Republicans right now? It's because of the baby boomers. It's
Yeah.
because, and it's not for what you think, it's because of decades of apathy. Ah, the
Yeah.
government's got it. They're doing the right thing. They'll do anything they can for us. And maybe they started out that way, but like I say, the money comes pouring in, people switch, and it's
Exactly.
rotted away. And that's why we are where we are.
People forget we are the government. It's
Yeah.
not a bunch of guys up in Washington. It's you and me. We are the government, and the government does what we say. Well, if we ignore it, then it's on us. And I will say this right now: I will invite anybody to pour a big bucket of money over me and see if I change. I may change, I may not, but I'll have a lot of
Yeah.
money.
Ed and I will be making a public appearance around the country. And let's do this little test. You guys bring buckets of money
Money,
and we'll see if we're affected by it.
yeah.
Well, we're coming to the end here, Ed. I appreciate it, you coming by. I'm a little excited about Monday and see what happens with Donald Trump. We'll have an
Me too.
opportunity to talk about it next week, and hopefully we'll be giggling like little schoolgirls.
Always.
Always, yeah, always. Well, but
It's always fun, Mike.
let's give a plug. I always forget this. Let's give a plug for where people can find you, so they should definitely do that.
Okay, just go to at Holler Troll. That's HOLLERTROLL on what is the name? TikTok. While it's still around, and or also on YouTube, Reeling in the Years or at Holler Troll works there too. You can
Yeah,
find me.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I got one there right now on getting rid of states. That's doing
Wow.
pretty well. Yeah.
Well, and if you haven't listened to Ed, you need to listen to him. It's a much it's a different thing than what you hear from him here on the Rational Boomer podcast. Ed is a historian essentially. He knows a lot of stories. He's a great storyteller, and if you want to learn something and be entertained, check out at Holler Troll on TikTok and on YouTube. It's worth listening to. I listen to it frequently and when I'm not listening to Alex Jones, of course. But um, check out at Holler Troll. Check out Ed. I think you'll be quite informed and entertained by doing so.
Thanks, Mike.
No problem. For those of you listening, thank you for taking the time out of your day to do that. I hope you have a great day. And of course, we will talk to you again tomorrow.